Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's drama, brilliant students, hidden secrets, she trusted them until they took everything. Some friendships were never meant to survive. In a high school in South Korea, as this group of students prepares to write one of the most difficult exams that determines their future, a boy suddenly storms into the class to announce that the school's top-performing student had disappeared. The class is immediately flooded with panic, as everyone is shocked to the core at the news. In a flashback, 8 months before the exams, a teacher reminds the students of the upcoming exams, advising them to take it seriously since their future depends on it. So, after the class, they gather around in groups discussing their plans for the exams. Gina, one of the girls, points out that Yuri doesn't have to feel anxious since she's smart, but Yuri turns down the compliment and clarifies that she's not as intelligent as Doyun, the school's #1 best student. Upon hearing this, Doyun denies the title and points out that Yoonbin is more intelligent than him since she reads their textbooks over 100 times. Yoonbin overhears him saying this, but ignores him to focus on reading. As everyone denies being the school's best student, Gina falls silent, reflecting on her bad grades and lack of preparation. So that night, she stayed up all night reading at the library. As she prepares to leave, she sees other students still focused on reading, so she forces herself to read more. But when the mock test result is released, she's shocked to see a poor grade. As other students gather around to compare their answers with Doyun, the best student, she stares from afar, worried about her grade in the upcoming exams. Each time she looks at her classmates, she sees their grades at the top of their heads, making her frustrated at her own poor grades. That day, after school, she comes across a teacher who criticizes her for her lack of effort and compares her to her older sister, who had been admitted to one of the country's best universities. That same day, as she returns home, her elder sister mocks her for not trying her best. She tries to explain how much effort she puts into reading, but her mother cuts her off and begs her to make a food delivery instead of wasting her time reading. That night, while feeling frustrated at her wasted efforts, she picks up her phone and tweets about her feelings. Initially, she receives a hate comment, but later in the night, a mysterious boy sees her posts and drops a positive comment, which motivates her. The next day, as she arrives late to class, a teacher walks in and introduces a new transfer student named Gang Woo. Everyone is shocked at this, since it's rare to make transfers as a senior high school student. But while everyone is shocked, Gina notices that Yuri and the new student are staring at each other. Later in the day, a teacher announces a group project and tells everyone to form a group of 5 students. Some girls immediately rush to Yuri, asking her to join their group, but she kindly turns down their request and insists on forming a group with Gina. This makes them angry, so later that day, in the school's restroom, they begin to badmouth Gina, claiming that she's only known for attaching herself to intelligent people. Unknown to them, Gina overhears their conversation and begins to feel frustrated with her low grades and lack of popularity at school. Anytime she posts a picture with Yuri, the comments section gets filled with people complimenting Yuri while totally ignoring her. At this moment, she realizes that her presence was getting suppressed due to her closeness with Yuri. She begins to see herself as a supporting character with no name, but regardless of this, she forces herself to smile. She ends up forming a project group with Yuri, Doyun, her best friend Shansol, and the new transfer student. Shansol proposes that she lead the presentation, so she agrees in order to prove herself in front of her classmates. Suddenly, a mysterious boy from another class walks in and announces that he likes Gina. Yuri sneers at his proposal, but when she sees the new student staring at her, she quickly hides her expression. That day, as Gina giggles at the proposal gift, Yuri advises her to turn down the boy's proposal. Meanwhile, Chansol has a secret crush on Gina but can't tell her, so he tries to advise her against dating the boy. However, she ignores his advice since it's the first time anyone has ever asked her out. One day, as he walks home from school, he sees the boy bragging to his friends and telling them how he plans to use Gina to get Yuri's attention, since Yuri had rejected him. Upon hearing this, Chansol runs to the library to reveal his discovery to Gina, but he stops when he sees her happily playing with the boy's gift. The next day in school, Yuri meets the new transfer student at a secret place and yells at him for transferring to her school without her knowledge. She tells him to pretend that he doesn't know her, so he agrees to it. At the library, Gina receives a text from the crush asking her out for a meal, so she takes permission from Yuri to leave. Seeing this, Chansol uses the opportunity to confront Yuri. He criticizes her for choosing not to expose the boy who asked Gina out. It turns out that Yuri knows the boy's intention for approaching Gina. As they argue over this, Gina walks in on their conversation and overhears them. Upon discovering the truth, she storms out in tears, but Chansol runs after her to console her. The next day, she sets up a meeting with the boy and lashes out at him for trying to deceive her. At school, when a group of girls asks about her date with the boy, she tells them she had dumped him since he wasn't her type. But soon, rumors begins to spread around school that she had dumped him because she thought she was on a higher level. One day in class, a girl indirectly calls her a slut for having lots of boys as friends. Chansol overhears this and defends her from the girls, almost causing an argument. But Yunbi, the class bookworm, stops them in time. Seeing this, Yuri advises her to stop hanging out with the boys to stop rumors. Yuri even approaches the girls to make peace with them. That night, as Gina recounts the incident, she wonders if she's at fault. So, she picks up her phone to tweet about her thoughts. A mysterious person leaves a positive comment again, so she becomes mutual with him and begins to chat and bond with him, not knowing that the stranger is actually her friend, Doyun. The next day, as Yuri arrives in class, she's shocked to see the new transfer student talking to Gina. This causes her to recall her experience with him at her previous school. It turns out that she was in a friend group with two girls. One of them liked Gangwook and wanted him to notice her. Seeing this, Yuri gave her support, but Gangwook ends up following Yuri on Instagram, so the two girls accuse her of secretly liking him. They end their friendship with her, and rumors begin to spread around, calling her a slut. She confronts Gangwook and warns him against speaking to her. From this experience, she learns never to trust a friend. So, when she sees Gangwook talking to Gina, she sends him a text to meet up and warns him to stop meddling in her life. After school, as they eat lunch together, Gina tells them about her anonymous account where she journals her thoughts. So, after lunch, Yuri finds the account and leaves a comment criticizing her tweets. Meanwhile, the day for the group presentation draws nearer. Gina begins to get closer to Doyun as he helps her prepare for the presentation. Chansol sees them together and grows jealous. Unknown to him, Yunbi is watching him. That day, a teacher announces another mock test, so Gina gets closer to Doyun to ask for his assistance in maths. Seeing this, Chansol becomes frustrated at his inability to teach her maths, so he begs Eunbi to become his tutor. Later that day, as the class makes plans for their graduation party, Yunbi takes permission to leave the meeting, claiming that she has a private tutoring class. When Yuri inquires about her tutor, she refuses to respond. So, the girls assume that she's attending an expensive tutoring class since her grades are high. Unknown to them, she's lying about the tutoring class. She actually works part-time to save for university tuition. That day, Chansol visits Gina's mother at her restaurant, so she begs him to make a food delivery. Coincidentally, the delivery location is at Yunbi's workplace, so he ends up discovering that she works part-time. She begs him to keep it a secret, so he agrees. When she asks about his feelings for Gina, he admits it and tells her to also keep it a secret. From that day, he begins to take notice of her in class and even approaches her to lend her cute pajamas for their graduation photo. He also invites her and Gangwook to join his group's hangout. There, everyone discusses their career goals. Yoonbi tells them she wishes to become a public servant since it's a stable job, while Doyoon talks about going to law school. Gina admires them for having their lives planned out, but she doesn't know that Doyoon is being forced by his mother to study law and boost their family's prestige, while Eunbi is choosing to become a public servant due to her poor background. Unaware of all this, Gina falls depressed again while thinking about her future. One day, while walking home sad, she comes across Chansol, so he treats her to dinner. There, she tells him about her worries and how she has no skills, but Chansol admonishes her for having low self-esteem and points out that she can build a career as a writer since she loves writing. While advising her, he mistakenly confesses his love for her, but she doesn't understand and mistakes it as a word of appreciation from a friend. That night, he experiences trouble falling asleep due to embarrassment, but Gina recovers from her depression due to his advice. As she tweets her thoughts on her anonymous account, Doyoon, the mysterious commenter, sees the post and chats her up, telling her about his personal struggles where his mother controls his life. A few days later, a famous writer comes across her anonymous account and retweets her write-up, causing her to gain followers. Seeing this, Chansol and Yuri advise her to publicize her anonymous account in order to gain more followers. This leads Doyoon to discover that the account belongs to her. With the newfound popularity, Yuri persuades her to participate in a school writing contest. As they meet the homeroom teacher to get the form, the man sees Yuri and forces her to also participate in the contest. Meanwhile, Yeonbi is having financial problems, making her unable to buy some needed textbooks. While thinking about her situation, she overhears some students praising Doyoon for buying an expensive and comprehensive textbook. Later that day, as everyone leaves for break, Yeonbi enters the class and sees the textbook on Doyoon's table, so she decides to take a look at it. While reviewing it, she becomes teary-eyed at her financial situation, which prevents her from buying the book. Lost in thought, she hears some students returning from the canteen, so she panics. In the process, she spills coffee on the book and tries to clean it with her sleeves. But as the students draw near, she gives up and runs away. Upon returning to the class, she sees everyone sympathizing with Doyoon, since the textbook is hard to get. Someone points out that they saw her running out of the class, but Chansol shuts down the accusation. That day, as Yuri and Gina prepare for the writing contest, Yuri receives a text from a group chat where some girls in the class mock Gina's writing. After reading their messages, she also joins them in mocking Gina. Yuri ends up winning the writing contest, so a group of girls gather around to mock Gina for failing. As they leave, they call Yuri to join them, so Yuri goes with them. Later that day, a teacher calls Gina and advises her to pursue creative writing at the university. 4 months before the exams, Yeonbi begins to experience burnout while reading, making her unable to memorize some things. During the second mock test, she struggles to answer the questions, and Chansol notices this. As soon as the results are released, she comes out second, while Doyoon comes out at the top of the class. Chansol sees her sad again and tries to comfort her, but she pushes him away. Her burnout grows worse as she struggles to balance her studies and her part-time job. She ends up fainting at her job, and as soon as she regains consciousness, the nurse tells her she's malnourished and advises her to reduce her caffeine intake. Unable to pay the medical bills, she calls Chansol for help, so he pays the bill and escorts her home. As she walks home, she suddenly turns around and realizes that she's fallen in love with him. Meanwhile, Gina sends a text to her anonymous fan asking for a meetup. Seeing her text, Doyeon agrees, but his mother walks into his room and seizes his phone to make him concentrate on studying. The next day, as he meets up with her, she's shocked to discover he's the anonymous fan. She apologizes for his struggles and advises him on how to manage his mother's controlling behavior. He listens to her advice and makes a life plan report to convince his mother. That night, he presents the report to her and promises to go to law school if she lets him pursue a side career as a movie director. But she tears up the report and yells at him for trying to embarrass the family after their investment in his education. When he insists on pursuing his dreams, she slaps him and tells him to live his life and see how that works out in the end. Meanwhile, Yoonbi continues to experience burnout from reading due to malnutrition, so she decides to cheat during a mock test by writing the answers on an eraser. Chansol catches her in the act, but covers up for her when a teacher almost discovers her. Feeling guilty, she decides not to answer all the questions in the test. That night after the test, as Doyeon chats with Gina about his situation, his mother asks for his phone again, so he gives it to her. Unaware of this, Gina continues to chat him up. Eventually, the mother sees their chats and immediately calls and warns her to stop chatting with her son. Doyeon overhears the call and immediately confronts his mother about it, but she misunderstands his outburst and assumes that Gina is his girlfriend. She decides to seize the phone until his exams, but he snatches it away from her. Seeing this, she flares up and tries to hit him, but he stops her in anger and storms out of the house. He goes to meet Gina to apologize for his mother's behavior, so she gives him a hug in return. Unfortunately, Chansol catches them hugging and assumes they're dating. The next day, 100 days to their final exams, Chansol learns from a teacher that Doyeon has gone missing, so he immediately announces it to the class. Hearing this, Gina recalls him talking about killing himself, so she immediately becomes worried. But it turns out he had slept on a public bus that drove him out of town to the countryside. After taking a stroll by the beach, he responds to Gina's text, informing her of his whereabouts. So she decides to meet him at the beach together with Chansol. On their way to board a bus, Yoonbi suddenly calls asking him to meet up with her. So, he tells Gina to go alone while he goes to meet Yoonbi. As Gina and Doyeon spend time together at the beach, Chansol meets up with Yoonbi, so she repays him for the medical expenses. He invites her to dinner with the money, and as he escorts her home, he inquires about her well-being, so she confesses to having a hard time and opens up about her financial struggles. Hearing this, he comforts her with kind words. She falls silent, listening to him, so he walks closer to check up on her. Suddenly, she kisses him and tries to run away, but after recovering from the shock, he stops her and apologizes for being unable to reciprocate her feelings. Meanwhile, Gina sends a text to Doyeon's mother, telling her about her son's depression and how he wishes to kill himself. She breaks down in tears at his, so when he returns home, she decides to have a one-on-one conversation with him. The next day, Gina meets up with the school's counselor and finally decides to pursue creative writing. So, the counselor advises her to apply to Sunsei University. However, the woman advises her to keep it a secret from other students. Outside, Yuri confronts her for lying, so she reveals that she knows Yuri's secret. It turns out she had once overheard Yuri talking to Gangwook about the bullying she experienced in her previous school. She had taken a video of both of them, so she posted it online as revenge. She also shares screenshots of their group chat to expose Yuri as a fake friend. Later that day, Gina tells Yuri about the counselor's recommendation, but begs her to keep it a secret. But the next day, Gina learns from the homeroom teacher that a classmate is also applying for creative writing at Sunsei University. which means they would have to compete for the spot. Gina goes to confront the classmate to ask how she knew about the application opening, so the girl reveals that Yuri had told her about it. Gina finds this hard to believe and asks Yuri to defend herself, but Yuri remains silent, so the classmate drags Yuri out for a meal. Gina sees the screenshots and breaks down in tears at the betrayal. From that day, Yuri begins to avoid Gina in school. The girls in class begin to bully her as well, so she decides to drop out of school. When Jinha learns of this, she confronts her and requests an apology, but Yuri insists on leaving the school. They get into a fight with Gina, asking for an explanation and apology. So Yuri opens up about her experience in her previous school, where she was bullied by her best friends, which traumatized her and made her doubtful of others' kind intentions. Listening to her experience, Gina decides to make up with her. As the class watches this scene, the bullies make fun of them, but Yunbi stands up for them. Later that day, Gina confronts the bullies and forces them to delete the post about Yuri. After a few days, Gina passes the first screening test for admission into Sunsai University. On the day of the entrance exams, Gina's parents escort her to the gates, so she happily walks in with Yuri and Yunbi. They end up writing the exams, but she begins to worry about her results. That night, Shansol sends her a text asking to meet up with her at a basketball court. There, he confesses his feelings to her and asks her to be his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Doyeon makes peace with his mother. One day, as he searches through her drawer, he stumbles on the life plan report he had once given to her. Although she tore it in front of him, it turns out she had glued it together and kept it in a safe place. Yunbi ends up quitting her job as a part-timer to enjoy her life before university. Yuri and Gangwook make up with each other and become friends. A few months later, the group reunites to celebrate their wins. Doyeon ends up gaining admission to study law at a prestigious university, but joins a movie club to pursue his dreams. Gina and Chansol also gain admission into their dream university. They announce their relationship to everyone, and after catching up with each other, they all go their separate ways.